In the faraway land of Sticktopia, there was a king named Maximus the Magnificent. At least, that's what he called himself. Everyone else just called him Max. Max wasn't a bad guy at first. He liked music, building bridges, and holding big annual Pancake Day festivals. But one day, Max decided he wanted something truly memorable. A gigantic gold statue of himself that would shine so bright you could see it from space.
Of course, statues like that don't come cheap. The royal treasury didn't have enough coins to pay for the project. So Max, sitting in his comfy red throne, came up with an idea. Raise taxes. A little extra from each stickman, he thought, and my statue will be done in no time. At first, the people didn't mind. They trusted Max, and besides, Pancake Day was still free.
The first tax hike was small. Bread cost a little more, market stalls paid a few extra coins, and fishermen had to share part of their catch with the crown. The people grumbled, but they could still afford their daily needs. Maximus even made speeches about how these temporary contributions would make Sticktopia the jewel of the world. But here's the thing about temporary taxes. They have a bad habit of becoming permanent. Max got used to the extra income, and the statue plans grew bigger. He wanted gold inlaid eyes, diamond eyebrows, and even a crown on the statue made entirely of emeralds. Each upgrade meant another round of tax increases.
Soon, shopkeepers were paying so much tax that they had to raise their prices. A loaf of bread, once 1 coin, now cost 3. Fishermen started selling fewer fish because they kept less for themselves. The marketplace, once lively and noisy, became quiet. Max didn't notice. He was too busy approving statue designs.
Then, one day, the kingdom's best baker, Oliver, closed his shop. "It's no longer worth baking bread if the crown takes most of the profit," he told his customers. Others followed. Carpenters, tailors, and even the local storyteller all slowed down their work or quit entirely. Without enough goods in the market, prices climbed even higher.
Max's advisors tried to warn him. "Your Majesty, when taxes get too high, people lose the motivation to work," said the royal economist, a stickman named Benji. But Max waved him off. "Nonsense! The people love me. They'll pay as long as they see the statue rising." Benji sighed. He had read enough scrolls on the Laffer curve to know this wouldn't end well. The tipping point came when farmers realized they could make more trading with the neighboring kingdom where taxes were lower. They packed their carts with grain and crossed the border. Sticktopia's food supply shrank. Hungry citizens grew restless. For the first time in years, Pancake Day was canceled. That's when the anger really began to boil. At night, in taverns lit by flickering candles, stickmen whispered about the great tax exodus. People spoke of moving to nearby lands where kings didn't demand half their earnings. Some already had. Every family that left meant fewer people paying taxes and less money for the statue. Max was shocked when the treasury numbers dropped. "Impossible! I raised taxes!" he shouted. But Benji calmly explained, "High taxes don't always mean more money. People leave. People work less, and the economy shrinks. Fewer transactions mean fewer coins in the royal chest." Max didn't like hearing it, but deep down he knew Benji was right. Still, Max wasn't ready to admit defeat. He ordered another tax hike, thinking it would cover the losses. But this only made things worse. The few remaining shopkeepers raised prices again. Ordinary stickmen started making their own clothes, baking their own bread, and fixing their own tools to avoid paying taxed goods. The official economy withered. The half-built statue stood in the center of the Capitol like a mocking reminder. It had a golden chest and sparkling eyes, but no arms, no legs, and no base. It looked like a bizarre floating head in the middle of the plaza. Tourists from other kingdoms came just to laugh at it. Max hated that.
Finally, the breaking point arrived when even the royal guards demanded higher wages to keep up with rising prices. Max didn't have the money to pay them, so they went on strike. The palace gates swung open, and the people marched in, demanding an end to the endless taxes. Max sat on his throne, realizing he had taxed his kingdom into the ground. "What do I do?" he whispered. Benji, standing beside him, gave him a simple answer. Lower taxes, rebuild trust, and let the people keep enough of their earnings to actually want to work again. A smaller slice of a bigger pie is worth more than a big slice of a shrinking pie.
It wasn't easy for Max to change course. He scrapped the statue project and lowered taxes to their old rates. At first, revenue dropped even more. But as the months passed, something strange happened. People started reopening their shops. Farmers returned to the markets. Prices stabilized. The sound of laughter came back to the streets. Within a year, the marketplace was bustling again. The royal treasury, surprisingly, had more coins than before. Max realized that a healthy economy made up for lower tax rates through more trade and more activity. The kingdom didn't need a giant gold statue to be great. It needed happy, productive stickmen. Max still kept Pancake Day alive, and it became a bigger tradition than ever. Every year, he would walk through the market, talk to the people, and, though he'd never say it out loud, quietly thank Benji for saving Sticktopia. The half-finished statue was left in the plaza as a reminder. Children played around it, calling it the Floating King. Some even thought it was meant to be a work of art. Max didn't mind. It was a better legacy than the disaster it could have been.
Over time, Max became known not as Maximus the Magnificent, but Maximus the Wise. The title felt better. He had learned that leadership wasn't about building monuments to yourself, but creating the conditions where your people could thrive. Economists from other lands visited to study Sticktopia's recovery. They called it a lesson in the balance between taxation and productivity, a living example of why overtaxing can shrink an economy. But to the stickmen, it was just the story of the king who finally listened.
And so, in the land of Sticktopia, the people worked, traded, and celebrated without fear of crushing taxes. Max's golden statue dream was gone, but his kingdom shone brighter than gold. Because, in the end, prosperity wasn't about how much the crown could take, but how much the people could create.